Welcome, everybody, to Strive305 Podcast. My name is Tico Casamayor. I am your host, and with my co-host, Irvans, Agustin, the legend when it comes to podcast hosts, or at least that's what he tells me over and over again every day. And we are here today with a wonderful young man, Gino Fernandez. He's a CPA. I got a lot of good stuff for you from him today, so prepare yourselves. But before we get going, let's do our thank yous. I want to thank our Mayor, Living Cava, for giving us this beautiful Strive305 podcast. Our non-mentionable, Manny Sid, we don't mention him anymore.
The man who should not be named.
Correct. The Beacon Council Foundation, who's now part of us and with us.
That's right.
Yeah, right. We got the Beacon Council Foundation. So we have all those resources and all that power that they have because they're great when it comes to helping the businesses. We have to have them on one of these days. We haven't had any of them on. That's right. We have to. You're right. And we'll get Julio out here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have Wells Fargo. We want to thank them because we do they power our website.
You have to thank the people who have the money.
Yeah, the big boys. And that hold my money because that's my bank. Believe it or not. Yes, that's my my operating account is in there. Our community news studio, Grant Miller, Michael Miller, thank you for this. And Sirius XM. We're now, again, Sirius XM has been airing our podcast on Slam Radio 145, the Pitbull station that's run by kids. And a couple of smart guys.
They're more professional than we are.
Oh, no, yeah, much better
kids
than
are great. They are.
Yeah, and they have the great hosts, Larry and Frank, are out there too. Anyways, thank you to Sirius XM. And okay, that's it. You ready?
Ready.
Okay, so before you get going, what he is, he's a CPA, right? Regular CPA, but why do we have him here? Because hey, everybody knows a CPA. We have him here because when I pick his brain for the small business people like me, right? People opening small businesses, people that had them for a long time, people that are considering maybe retiring and selling their small business, or people that just want to keep going. All those type of questions Irvans is going to ask you, and I'm going to put in my dumber questions because these are smart ones, and I'm the guy that asks the dumb ones. But hey, there's a lot of dumb people out there like me that want to know and need to know, so you're going to help us with that.
There are no stupid questions, Tico.
Resources, we have resources in the website for, CPAs and questions like that, but we have them live here with us today, so we're going to ask you all your questions. Okay, ready?
Thank you guys for having me.
Introduce him. Tell us who he is.
Actually, you can introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and how do you find your company?
So my name is Gino Fernandez, as they mentioned. My firm is Miami Lakes Fernandez CPA firm. We've been around now for 5 years. I've been a CPA for 10. We help a wide range of clients. I mean, from small business owners to companies that are doing 10 million in revenue and above.
Yeah.
So we pretty much provide controllership, CFO services, and tax return preparation. We also help clients achieve loans, whether they're expanding or they want to buy a new piece of equipment, whatever the case may be. We're always helping them out with their loan applications. Like I said, we're located in Miami Lakes, and that's pretty much.
You said 10 million and above.
Yeah.
So
it's a good range. We have small business owners that are just starting out.
Right.
We have clients that do 10 million.
He covers everybody.
Oh, okay. So you do. It's not just 10 million and above. You do all the smaller guys. If
absolutely.
not, I was just going to leave the show and walk away because then I can.
They're actually my favorite, the smaller businesses.
The smaller business.
Because I feel you can make the most impact.
Yeah. Well, you said you've been a CPA for 10 years, but in business for 5. So this is your company?
This is my company, correct.
Okay, so he's a small business owner too.
As well.
Correct, 100%.
What inspired you to take that leap and start your own CPA?
So I have the entrepreneurial spirit thanks to my parents. They came here from Cuba in 1980, and ever since then, they've been business owners, so that's been instilled in my DNA. I've seen it my whole life growing up, so that's why I'm very passionate about helping the smaller businesses. I've been a part of it my whole life.
That's amazing. And then, taxes is kind of the first thing that people think about when it comes to small businesses and accounting. But what are 3 things, when you're first connecting with a small business or others, what are the first 3 things you actually talk to them? Because taxes is always way out here, but I think there's so much more before that businesses should know.
Well, when somebody starts a business?
Yeah.
Well, when they start, number one, do they do LLC, S Corp, or C Corp? What's the differences between that? Because that was one thing that I struggled with in the beginning.
Oh, did you?
I have multiple companies. I have some LLCs, and then I have some S. No, do I have S? No, S, right? S are the ones that you run through yourselves?
Yes.
Right, so I have all S's and LLC.
Yeah.
And they told me why. I don't remember. and I don't understand. So it would be great if you could explain it to me so that everybody out there can understand what are the differences. Generic. It just
Yeah, very generic. So basically, all these entity structures give you legal protection one way or another, right? You register with the state. Perfect. You could be an LLC, a partnership. You could be an C corp. The S corp election is an election you make at the federal level. So that's just how you want to be taxed. Do you want the income to flow through to you personally, or do you want the business to be completely separate? If you want it to be completely separate, then we have a C corp. Okay, that's just a regular corporation.
Right, which
files
is
his own taxes, his
its
own
own
living entity.
And S corp is basically an extension of me.
Correct.
When it comes to taxes, but do I still get the same protection if I had a
Yes.
C corp as an S corp?
Yes.
Same protection.
Same protection.
So what are the tax implications between the two?
Good question. So the tax implication is, if you're an S corp, you must provide yourself a reasonable salary defined by the IRS code. Okay. So that's step one. Okay. How does it differ? The income or loss flows through to you onto your Form 1040, which is your personal tax return. As opposed to if you're a regular C corp, that C corp files its own tax return. It's an 1120. It would also file with the state of Florida its own tax return, and everything is kept separately. So the day of tomorrow you owe taxes, as a C corp, the C corp is responsible, not Tico.
Right, but so why is it beneficial to do the S corp? Because I've always been advised the S corp.
Yeah.
Because you want to bring down the tax rate. So what happens is at the federal level, C corp gets taxed at 21%, and you also have state taxes, which you have to pay at 5.5%. Okay, so why go S corp versus C corp? Because you're going to get hit with 3 layers of taxes. You're going to get hit with federal, state, anything above $50,000 or more gets taxed at the state level. And if you draw money out of your company, you got to pay dividends taxes on your personal return. Okay, so you're taxed 3 times.
You're 3.
As a C.
As a C.
Yeah.
Okay.
And S corp, you can draw as long as you have what's called basis. Basis is just a fancy word. You can think about it like a checking account. I have income, I have expenses, what's left over. That's your basis in the company, in a nutshell. Okay, you can draw that money tax free,
Right.
as long as you don't go over your basis.
Right.
Okay.
And for other people, separate personal business account, 2 separate accounts. You're
2
referring
separate
to.
accounts, always. You
Yes.
always want to do that, and you want to be cognitive of that because you do have a basis limitation.
Yeah.
So you don't really want to go over because now you're going to get taxed as a dividend, okay, as a capital gain, kind of like if you were to sell stocks, okay? So we want to avoid that. You always want to have bases. And there's elections you can make, to increase your bases, whatnot, so on and so forth. But that's in a nutshell. You want to have bases always in an S corp. So why the S corp? Because a lot of times people create an LLC, okay? Because that's the first thing that they think of. Oh,
Yeah.
let me get an LLC. It's the easiest. It's the simplest. It's all over Instagram. All these influencers talk about it all the time. So yes, you can go ahead and do an LLC, but then to get the tax advantage, you go into an S corp. Where does the advantage come from an S corp versus LLC? An LLC, you'll pay tax on your net income, okay, on your personal tax return. It goes on your Schedule C, okay? Then you're going to have to pay a second layer, which is self-employment taxes. It's a 15.3% tax imposed on your net income. So I always use the example, if you make $100,000, give or take, you're going to pay another layer of taxes around $14,000 in addition to federal taxes. You're going to have self-employment tax. So to mitigate that, you go ahead and you get you get the S corp election. Excuse me. Once you get the S corp election, you run your payroll. Let's say the reasonable salary for you is $50,000. So now you only pay self-employment taxes on the $50,000 as opposed to the $100,000 you would have paid on the LLC. So you've kind of reduced that second layer of tax by half, let's say. Okay, so that's where the tax advantage comes.
Okay, so but an LLC can still be classified as an S corp?
Absolutely, because again, so why
an LLC versus an S corp?
So because at the state level, you cannot incorporate as an S corp. You can either incorporate as a C corp, an LLC, a partnership, a nonprofit, all of those good names. However, the S corp election is a form you have to fill out with the IRS. You have to mail in, and you have to get approved. So that's a federal status.
Okay.
It's not a state status.
All right,
So
I'm
that's
still
why it's
confused, but whatever. I kind of makes a little more sense. But if
people
not,
feel it's simpler it feels simpler for people, isn't that? Because then you don't have to do that extra step for the S?
Well, you
Is
always
that why
have
people do
to
it?
make the election.
Okay, so you always have to
Regardless
make
whether
the
you're a
election.
C Corp or an LLC, no matter what you incorporate as in the state of Florida, let's say,
Right.
you still have to make that election with the IRS. You have to fill out the form and mail it in,
Okay,
regardless.
so when do you pick an LLC and when do you pick an S corp?
So you don't pick it. You incorporate in the state of Florida as an LLC.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, look, once you're making X amount of revenue, I'll give you that number now. Let's sit down and discuss opening an S corp. Making the S corp election. Okay. With the IRS. So usually I would say if you're a sole proprietor, once you're making more than $100,000, I think it's time to sit down and let's analyze this thing, because you do have to follow the rules. So what happens is, if you're below 100, you can still do it, but you have to be mindful that you have to process your payroll. You are gonna, you're gonna have extra administrative costs. You got to come to me now to file your business return, do the books. You're gonna have admin costs. Right, all of that adds up. So I always say, if you're a single owner with an LLC, I think $100,000 and more, it's time to go ahead and have that discussion.
Okay. All right. Yes, right. Good stuff. That's good information. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's always had me a little. I mean, I get it. I follow that's the number one. When I first started our company, I had a good friend who is a CPA, but he's a CPA for multi-million-dollar company. He just advised me because he was a friend of my father. And the first thing he tells me, look, you're going to start your business career now. You're going to open up your company. You're going to go on your own. The two things you don't cheat on or save on or be cheap on is your advisors. And your advisors is your CPA and your attorney.
Yep.
Those two guys, make sure you pick good people, make sure they know what they're doing, and then stick to them and pay whatever it costs. And it's been the best advice I've ever gotten.
Yep.
Because, number one, you're going to get good, you're going to get good advice and good work. Number two, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think. If you don't understand it like me, it doesn't matter because they got your back.
Right.
Right? So that's a real important thing.
Yeah.
And somebody knowledgeable like Gino is here.
It makes a difference, and having a bad attorney or a bad accountant, again, it's the same thing. Like, so it is important to pick a good one. And if you were talking to a small business who's just starting out, what are the three things you would tell them to look for when they're looking for an accountant?
So going back to your point, yes, always find somebody you can rely on. Absolutely. Look, one of the things I always say is, cheap things will end up costing you down the road.
Right.
Right.
And that's true.
So one of the things I look at when I sit down with the business owner is, what's your future plans? Right? What's your plan? Is your plan to sell this business? Is it to expand? Do you want to get a loan at some time in the future? What are you looking for? So based on that, I advise them. So in order to achieve any goal in business, unfortunately or fortunately for me, you have to have a good accountant or CPA, because your financials represent you and your company. So the day of tomorrow you want to expand, you want to get a loan, the banks are going to look at you and say, how much are you making? They're going to say, show me your financials. I have seen so many problems with bad bookkeepers in the past. I have cleaned so many sets of books just because they hired the wrong person. They hired
And
a
all that money
bookkeeper.
you saved in the beginning, you're paying now
You're
to
gonna
get
pay
everything
it now.
At the
fixed.
end, yeah.
And it's going to cost you more
Yeah.
than what you saved. Because now I got to charge you for it.
Yeah, and it's what he said is also true. Strategy is key.
Absolutely.
Because I come from a world that bankers hate. They all get mad at me. Because I come from a world, my father, been around since 1940s, but let's say 70s here in the U.S. So he's the mentality of, I want to pay as little income tax at the end of the year as possible. I don't care. That's number one. Number two, we don't buy anything unless we have the cash to pay for it, because we don't go into debt. Because you never know what's going to happen. And every time something happens, he goes, you see, when COVID happened, he goes, you see, we don't have any debt. This is why we survived. When the 2008 crash happened, you see, this is why we don't have any debt and we survived. The only thing we have is payroll, because he refuses, and if we do borrow on something, pay it off as soon as possible.
Right.
Now, bankers are telling me, what, are you crazy? You can't give your money to, finance it and always have cash on hand, cash on hand, cash on hand.
Right.
So it's two different things. But then, again, with taxes, at the end of the year, he wants to show that we made as little as possible, so we pay as little tax as possible. But go to a bank and tell them, hey, look, here are my books. I made very little. He goes, how are we going to lend you money? You don't make any money.
Yep.
So it all depends. That's why strategy is key.
Very
Your
important.
plan is on growth, and using money like Strive305, that loan that they give, I always forget the name of it.
The Rise loan?
The Rise loan.
Yeah.
You know, we have great resources in Strive305 when it comes to loans. Rise loans is spectacular, instant. You know, all you need is 2 years.
No, they work with you, and you don't even
And they
have
work
to.
with you, 620 credit, and you can get money. But if I go to them, hey, I want to get myself a new press, it costs $6 million. They're going to laugh at me if they see my books.
You need to go to a commercial bank for that.
No, we got to go to to our stash and pull out the cash and pay it in cash. And then you got to have to tell them, why do you have so much cash? But whatever, it all depends on strategy,
Absolutely.
on how you plan to do your books.
Absolutely.
Again, you need, because if we do how do you make a mistake in my world? By expensing stuff that doesn't exist to get what so I spent all this money to show that you make a little money. You do that wrong, you're in trouble. If you get audited, you're dead.
You're dead.
Right, and then at the end, you end up paying 3 times as much as you thought, that you were going to lose.
Absolutely. And there's always other strategies, tax strategies you can use, opening up a 401k, whatnot. Put your money away, have access to it, So the IRS will always incentivize us to save our monies, and that's how you can mitigate paying taxes. By putting in a 401k plan, so on and so forth. So there's always strategies, At the end of the day, look, let's say you have a great year, Let's say it's your real numbers, not the
Right.
not the numbers where you expense everything. Look, at the end of the day, there's Section 179. You can buy your assets, depreciate them. There's ways to plan
That's a good
to
idea.
mitigate, your tax liabilities. But always the basis of everything is having a good
CPA
set of
advice
books.
would give you.
Yeah.
Correct. But you got to have your set of books up to date.
Right.
Everything's got to be coded the right way. I've seen a lot of times I go into companies and I see, they have these equipments, these vans, these trucks. I'm like, all right, show me your balance sheet. Nothing. No bank's going to lend to you. They're going to say, where are your assets? They're going to see maybe a bunch of liabilities if you finance them, right? They're going to say, where are your assets? You have no assets. You just have liabilities on the books because their prior accountants put it onto the profit and loss as opposed to the balance sheet.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
now on
And it
paper,
doesn't
you
show.
look like you're a
On
broke
paper,
company.
yeah.
Even if you have income, it's like, where are your assets? No bank wants to lend to you unless you have assets. That's another point. It's important having a CPA because you want to see if your loan, for example, is going to be a recourse loan versus non-recourse. Why is that important? Because if it's a recourse loan, they can come after you personally. A lot of times you don't hear this advice. You just sign off on the loan. If it's non-recourse, the bank is going to get what they can. Whatever they lose, they lost it. You know what I'm saying? But you got to have somebody be able to guide you to tell you, look, this is what to look for. Let's have your books in orders, all these good steps. Because if not, you're kind of going in there with your pants down and you don't know what to expect.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people will take advantage of you. As you were telling me, you had a gentleman that came in with predatory loans. He was speaking on that. And, people will take advantage of you. If you don't have a good attorney, like you mentioned, or a good CPA, you're in a world of trouble.
Yeah.
And when you're desperate, you'll do whatever you'll get, and then this predatory loan, they will convince you that it's great, and you don't want, and you know that it's not, but you don't want to hear. You just want to. You need the cash.
And you know
So
what's
you
the
take
sad
it.
part? So a lot of times, those guys that are in that position actually do qualify for these loans. From a financial
just don't know.
institution or from an SBA, but they
Right.
don't know.
Right.
They don't know about these loan options. I think you guys were mentioning the Rise loan. That's something here in the county. If you're in Miami-Dade, you can take advantage of it. But you need somebody to be able to guide you and tell you, hey, let's
Or
go.
let
Let
you
me
know
hold you
what's
by
out
the
there.
hand.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What are some questions you wish that small businesses asked you more often?
Questions that they ask me.
Or that you wish they asked you? Because I know, like, they probably come in with a lot of the same questions to you, but what do you wish that they asked you or wish they knew before they came to you?
Look, to be honest, I wish they come in as an open book, meaning a blank open book, and let me fill in those gaps. I'd rather them come to me and ask me the questions because a lot of times, and as a matter of fact, this is a big issue. They'll go on TikTok, they'll go on Instagram, they'll see these influencers giving them bad advice. Now, this is actually on the IRS Dirty Dozen list. So the IRS has a Dirty Dozen list of schemes and illegal, things that are out there. And they're actually on the list now. So if you take
And then
advice
now
from
you go and you do it because you heard it there.
but now that's not a scapegoat.
Right.
The IRS is saying no.
Yeah.
Now you're in trouble because this is published information. Now you're in trouble.
Right.
So I wish a lot of times people come in as an empty book. Let me fill in the gaps to them.
And you know why they don't? Being a small business, because they're embarrassed.
Yeah.
They don't want to share
Or
it
you
with.
don't, or you don't even think you want to ask because like you think it's going to cost you. Like I'm like small businesses. Like I've talked to people like, oh, I don't have the money for a lawyer. I don't have the money for an expensive accountant.
Correct.
Yeah, or you're just, like I said, embarrassed to show him what you've done. So
Right.
you try to manipulate the
make
CPA,
it
which
look
is what you
better.
don't want to do.
Right.
You know, it's
Correct.
like he's your priest. You got to go in there, and this is everything I've done. This is everything I
Right.
did wrong. And
That's
then
true.
And help them,
People
let
wanna-
them organize you.
Yeah.
Because if they don't know the reality,
Correct.
they're organizing, that's why at the end when you're doing your taxes, you send a waiver saying, this is based on the information you gave me, and
Absolutely.
right? But the information we give them,
Yeah.
sometimes we're embarrassed to give them, because we did stupid things and we're like, oh my God, I don't want to even let them know. I didn't pay my Lamborghini through the company. I didn't take a PPC loan and buy a Lamborghini with it, which happens. Which happened back in
remember
those
that
days.
news.
Call for it too.
Yes, but you got to let him know so he can prepare you, so he can mitigate you how many years you're going to spend in jail for that one. Yeah, okay. I
This
had a
is where you
question, but
say
I
the
forgot it.
disclaimer: you're not telling people to buy a Lamborghini on
Yeah.
PPP.
Well, it all depends, If you get a good year of
The answer's
using it,
no, Tico. The
it might be
answer's no.
worth,
The
the
answer's
1
no.
year might be worth the best time of your life. Then you're in jail dreaming
Yeah.
about it all the time. It could be. For some people, that might be worth it.
If that's the case, you may want a tax attorney, not a CPA.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, what else? Oh, I got advice one time from someone. I'll check it with you, because I get to the point that I'm too busy to be looking at everything. So I have bookkeepers. My bookkeeper is doing my work, but then you're scared. Can your bookkeeper take all your money? And I sometimes, yes, they could, because she has access to everything of mine because I have to, so to make my life easier. So I was told one time that at least at minimum, have your bank statements come to you. Now they come digitally, but back in the day, make sure they go to a PO box and that you're the only one that has access to it, and review your bank statement or whatever your money comes in and out of. At least review that and see that that every single transaction coming in and out. I know it's a little crazier now because of the digital world, but if you have one bank account where all your money, which was what I
It
do,
should
goes
be
in
easier
and goes
to-
out.
Yeah, you should definitely review all your books yourself.
Yeah, but you don't, because you trust in your bookkeeper. You're going to check every single expense, every single thing on your, an American Express card went through there. I spend 15, 20, 30 grand a month on my American Express. But in order to make sure that that's legit, I got to go to my American Express and look at every single thing, which she does. But, you've got to, at least your minimum, wherever your money comes in and out, make
Yeah.
sure you know every single transaction coming in and out.
So I'm glad you bring this up, because a lot of times I see it happen where these small business owners don't have what's called internal controls. Very simple. How much access does your bookkeeper have? Does she generate wires from your bank? Does she?
Yes.
Okay.
I needed to, because I'm not going to do it. I don't have time.
Perfect. So a lot of banks will give you tools. It could be a little thing
Yes,
with numbers
with a key
on it.
yeah. Which I don't know where it is, by the way.
And you
Also.
have to always authorize it at the end. You always have to be the final
You
approver.
got to approve it.
So you gotta create these controls internally, and these are easy. Anybody can help you out with that. I'll be more than glad to give you a free walkthrough and advice. So in terms of also having bank access, you can restrict them. You can tell your bank, hey, I only want her to have an accountant's access and to generate wires.
That's what I do with
Don't
mine.
do anything
Yeah.
else. So having internal controls is very important. Not your employees will steal from you.
And if it makes it that easy, which I want to
Even if it's
definitely check that.
intentional or unintentional, people make mistakes too.
Absolutely.
So it's the same thing.
You can
whether
key
you
in the
trust
wrong
them or you
number on
don't
a
trust.
wire,
Yeah.
and then that
Whether you
can
trust
cost
them
you
or you
money.
don't trust them, in the end, you should pay attention to it.
Yeah,
But
like my bookkeeper showed up in a Maserati the other day. I'm going, wow, impressive, nice car. She let me take a ride
Are
in
you
it.
hiring?
I was about to
No,
say.
that was a joke. But you want to hear a story? This was years ago when my father, before I was in the company and running it, I was just working there. He had a bookkeeper. She was the receptionist and then became the bookkeeper, right? And she was managing everything for him. And it was those days that he kept, a little man purse with cash in it. But it got to the point, just to summarize and make it quick, it got to the point, we got invited to a party she was having for her kid. And we went to the party, it was the most lavish. I go, oh my God, what an incredible party. How is she affording this thing? Her husband was, I think, truck driver. I go, wow, they must make a lot of money. Long story short, one day my dad finds out, he sees something. First, money missing from his little purse that he kept inside her office to keep it safe. And then we look and we see we have a sales rep with the same name. His name was, let's give him a fake name, Jose Diaz. And then there was a Jose Diaz LLC. Where did this come from? she was making commission checks, his commission checks,
and
cashing them in Jose Diaz LLC, which she opened.
Wow.
Because you could open up a company, whatever name you want, Jose Diaz LLC. So the checks that he would sign to Jose Diaz, she was cashing in Jose Diaz LLC. She was generating the commission because she did it all. The commission checks. This guy, I go, wow, this guy's making a lot of money. Well, when we went to he went crazy because he couldn't believe it. I took a lie detector test. Everybody in the company took a lie detector test because we couldn't figure out where the money was, funneling out of. And it ended up being her. She passed the lie detector test, so who knows what she did to pass it. But we found out the bank's over $150,000. I think Wells Fargo, we found it in there. And the cool thing is Wells Fargo refunded a big chunk of it. But he went all out on her. He convicted her. She was paid restitution for like 30 years of like $100-something a month.
At least he caught her.
Yeah, and she had a record. He wanted her to have a record, so she couldn't get a job to do it to somebody else, and blah blah blah. But it was that simple. And when you think about it, when I thought about it, I go, oh my God, it is that simple.
Yep.
You create.
So all I'm hearing you say is, don't create an LLC, just take cash.
Well, but nobody has cash anymore. That's the problem. If it were the case, yes. But it's so it's the most important thing.
Crazy,
Another very important thing to our viewers,
How long was she working with him?
What did you call
Internal
them?
control and segregation of duties. You want to have.
It's not that difficult to do, and it doesn't require a lot of time for you to check your stuff. Just know everything that's coming in and everything that's going out, no matter what. Even if it's your wife or your husband that's the one doing the bookkeeping, do it. You could
probably get an AI now to just generate reports for you.
Oh, I'm sure the AI can do stuff with that now too, but anything can be manipulated if the person that's controlling the money has total control.
Don't give them.
I know, but it's easier to do that when you're a business owner. But when you're working and you're sitting in a podcast studio all day long, you don't have time to be doing it, so you give it to somebody else. But again, a CPA can also be a checkpoint for you.
Absolutely.
Very much so.
Yep. Yeah, whatever you hire the CPA whatever you want the CPA to do and you hire them to oversee, they will do it. Our job is not to catch fraud, but if you tell me, hey, I need you to keep an eye out and give me a report or every month tell me what's going on, absolutely, that's their job. Their job is to oversee your bookkeeper and keep them in check. He mentioned AI. Can something with AI be put in there to just check anomalies, to check something that doesn't make sense? To the best of my knowledge, the AI that's available, it's mainly to take away the manual process of bookkeeping, to automate your books. In terms of, whether you cut a check and it's good or not, that technology just doesn't really exist to my knowledge. Doesn't mean that it's not out there. Yeah. According to my knowledge, it's not there. I wouldn't trust it. I would just think for reports, if you just wanted to. Right, but I mean, if AI can look at the reports and then when it sees something that doesn't make sense, it can flag it for you. But there are other tools. For example, Bill.com. Bill.com, I think, is a great tool. It doesn't matter what size your company is. Basically, all your vendors will, send their invoices to Bill.com. Right? It goes through a whole process where you code it to which account, the amounts, and then you're the ultimate approver as the owner. So you say, yes, pay. And what's even better is you can send it as an ACH, or Bill.com can cut a check on your behalf. On your behalf. So it's not coming out of your bank. Because a lot of schemes that are going on now are, they're washing these checks. So they front it and everything comes through them. And they charge you a fee. A fee per check, correct. Or and then if anything's wrong, I've gotten checks. They eat it initially, but they're the ones who take that hit. Correct. Correct. And that mitigates a couple things. It mitigates, your employees cutting checks that they shouldn't be, number one. Number two, having your check account numbers and all that exposed. Yeah, over there. You know what I'm saying? I give you a check. I don't know if you're going to, white it out and deposit it again. I don't know what's going to go on. Or you lose it, somebody picks it up, and, next thing you know, you got a fraud for 10 grand coming out of your account. You're like, oh, man, what's going on? People still use whiteout. You said whiteout. Oh, no, they blank out these checks, and it's... Oh, they could just reprint it. They're laundering these checks. They're washing checks. I'm a printing company. You know how easy I can make a check? Yeah. All these schemes exist, so you also mitigate that, not having your bank account information exposed. That's interesting. It's a great tool. All right. Look, we're out of time again. These shows are going by too fast. Now I'm going to have FOMO the rest of the day. How do people find your your company? And then give us a last piece of advice. Anything, what should a business do when they want to, when is the right time to open a corporation? I got you. So you can find us, our website is fcf.cpa. It's very simple. FCF.CPA. So Fernandez CPA firm, FCF.CPA. That's our website. You can email me, call me at the office. We're very accessible. We're pretty quick at answering our emails. And in terms of the small business owners, one message I really want to relay to them is don't wait, okay? When you start your business, make sure you got your ducks in a row, have your attorneys, your CPAs, make sure you have everything lined up, especially if you're very serious about your business, you want to grow, you want to expand, you have a lot of ambition, don't wait. Get a CPA involved as soon as you can. File your taxes the right way. Don't write off your nails, your hairdresser, your suits and dresses.
Tico and I are good. We don't need hairdressers.
I write off my T-shirts because these are my funny T-shirts for the buck.
Do things the right way because they will end up costing you down the road. Even if your ideas, you want to buy a house, and you have your income from your business, a lot of times people don't even qualify for a doghouse, because they're not doing their taxes and books right. They're trying to be smarter and outsmart the system. Eventually, everything comes back and it bites you in the butt, So make sure you just do it right, and plan correctly.
I had something I wanted to say. Maybe I'll get away with it maybe before Anthony cuts me off. IRS. And all this staffing issues going on. They're eliminating employees.
Now you're putting me under the hot mic.
What do we do? Is that a good thing? Because are we going to be able to get away with more things? How are they going to monitor everything now?
It's a very short answer for you. No.
The answer is no.
Next question.
And look, as a CPA, we are unfortunately considered the gatekeepers. We are supposed to do what's right. Look, am I telling you to do things the wrong way?
No.
I would
But
never tell you that.
How's that going to hurt us? Is that going to hurt us? All this lack of staffing and things getting done in time?
What I will say to answer your question indirectly is I think a lot of people are going to do some funky stuff, and they may, or very likely they may not, which is I think more likely than not, they won't get audited.
For now.
There's a delay.
There's going to be a delay.
But remember, IRS or anything you do in life, there is no statute of limitations for fraud.
That was my question.
Exactly.
How long before we know if we're going to get
fraud? There is no statute of limitations.
So more advice for my business owners out there: do not try to, just because they don't have the staff now to do it.
It'll
don't
cost you twice as much later.
Yeah.
Yes.
As soon as they
you
catch up.
You don't want to be 80 years old and then get an audit and say, hey, you owe this money from way back when you tricked us.
Everything always comes back to light.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. There's your last piece of advice as we end this episode of Strive305.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys, for
Gino.
having
You
us.
should totally register on the Strive305
I will.
website.
Yeah, we'll get him. And I also have references on him because a good friend, Manny Sid, has known you since you were a kid. Isn't that true? I heard
He
that the other day.
always tells me
Did
that
you
he
know
knows
that?
me since I was in diapers.
Yes.
That's the joke every time he sees me.
I ribbon cut personally his new location. I
Yes.
did the ribbon cutting with him. And Tony Haber.
Tony Haber.
Tony Haber from our foodie podcast show that we do
yeah.
with Strive
Yeah.
is also friends with him. So we know how to find him if you ever decide to hire him and when you need to find him, let me know. We know how to get in touch with him. He's not going to disappear.
Absolutely
All
not.
right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, folks.
That's it for this
Thank
show.
you.
Goodbye from Strive305. Anthony, it's you now.